I think the 4.5-inch angle grinder is the most versatile tool in the workshop. I've got 10 different accessories here for it. Let's try them all out and see if you agree. Let's start with metal cutting. It's one of the most obvious. A few years ago, these were the norm. This is about 3mm thick and it's a steel cutting disc. To be honest, I don't really know anyone that uses these anymore, but I've still got a couple in the cupboard just in case. These are the current go-to. These are what are known as ultra-thin slitting discs. They're about 1mm thick. You can get slightly thinner now as the technology improves, and they are absolutely fantastic. As you can imagine, with it being thinner, you've not got to put as much effort into getting it to cut through the material, and they last really well as long as you just let the tool do the work. If you bear down on them really hard, then they wear out very, very quickly. The way I like to use these is I'll draw a little line where I want to cut. I just get right up behind the guard, get one hand on the back of the table, have the workpiece clamped down so it can't move, and then I'll start and I'll draw along the line. And that creates like a little groove next to the line. And I'll just keep going backwards and forwards until I've cut the part off. Now what that does is it stops the part getting too hot in one area. If I just cut here, it'll get really hot all the way along. Whereas going backwards and forwards, it helps to distribute the heat, and particularly with thin parts like this is a bit of 2mm thick 304 stainless. If you put lots of heat into it, it'll just warp and your part will potentially be spoiled by that. So doing that backwards and forwards just keeps the part nice and cool, and you get a nice clean cut as well. So let's just do that and you can see it in action. It helps if you plug the grinder in. Right, let's try again. So this is your basic grinding wheel. These are great for fairly rapid material removal. So say you've cut your part with your slitting disc and you've left a little bit of extra material for final shaping. You'll knock down the bulk of it with this. I've got a little bit of mild steel here. You can see the edge has been plasma cut. This is an ideal use for the grinding wheel. Just cleaning up these little snots. So we're just going to hit that, and again we're going to go backwards and forwards, trying not to put too much heat into the part, just holding it in one area. It's going to make the part really hot. You can see how quickly that cleaned up. It just takes a couple of seconds with a good quality grinding wheel. But now we've got all these big scratches in here, and what I'll do is I'll just put a patch on here with some deep scratches in it, so I can show you the flapping wheel and how good that is at removing the scratches. So these are flapping discs. You can get these in a variety of different abrasive grits, and they're just the carbon fibre backing pad with these little swatches of basically sandpaper glued onto them, and they are really good. They don't remove a lot of material. What you'll do is use this to knock out all of the scratches that you've put in using your grinding disc. Okay, so we've got two areas here that have just been ground using the same disc. And what I'll do is I'm just going to go over one of them, probably this one, with the flapping wheel. It's an 80 grit flapping wheel, just so I can show you the difference between the surface finish after grinding versus grinding and then flapping. So this is the ground finish. You can see how coarse that is, the way the light's reflecting on all the ridges. And then this is the flapped finish. Still got some scratching in it, of course. I mean, it's 80 grit, but that's a much smoother finish. You can compare the two side by side there. This little beauty is a wire wheel cup. You can also get them with radial tassels. So instead of being a cup like that, they have all the tassels coming out like the spokes of a wheel. But these are absolutely fantastic. If you're pulling something off of a machine that's really dirty, or you've got a bit of rusty old metal that you need to clean up, you hit it with one of these first and it just rips the rust and the dirt off. And it makes life so much nicer from then on in with whatever your project is. Now, unlike the other discs that sandwich between the locking nut and the backing plate on the grinder, this one just screws straight on. Okay, let's have a go at this bit of rusty steel here with the wire cup and see what it can do. This little fella is a polishing pad. Now, if you haven't got a bench top polisher in your workshop, I haven't got one, I'm not that fortunate, this is a great little alternative. It just screws onto the grinder in the same way that the wire wheel does. Just pop him on and give him a turn, then we can lock him on when we want to use him, and just start him up, put the polish on and buff whatever you're buffing. What you need with these is you need a different one for each different type of polish that you're using. So I do a fair amount of work in stainless, so I have one for the black polish, which is the cutting compound, and I have another one that's for the green polish, which is the sort of the finishing polish, the high chromate, high chromium polish, I think it is, the green one anyway. Right, so you might have been thinking that the angle grinder was just for using with metal. Well, if you're prepared to put your big boy trousers on, you can have a go with one of these. This is a wood carving disc, and it is basically terrifying. If you get a big one of these, they're quite intimidating. So it's just a steel disc with a groove cut all the way around the outside of it to match the profile of the bar on a chainsaw. And what that means you can do is put a chainsaw blade around the outside of the disc and rivet it shut, and you've got an angle grinding chainsaw disc. Whoever thought of this was some kind of sadistic individual, because this thing is brutal, as you're about to find out. The only slight problem is that they do make a bit of a mess. Right, so now that we've absolutely obliterated a piece of wood with the chainsaw disc, we might have some big scratches that we want to get rid of. And that's where this little fella comes in. Now this is not just a one-off, one-trick pony. This is a hook and loop pad. So anything that you can get for hook and loop, you can put on your angle grinder. This is a really handy little thing. Now, I've just got it with a sanding pad on it. Ideal for woodwork. You could also use it for metal if you wanted to, or plastics if you're feeling particularly careful. You can do plastics, but because the angle grinder spins so quickly, you need to be very careful you don't overheat and melt the plastic. Now you can get variable speed angle grinders which overcome that problem, and to be honest I think they're very, very good. So these are super handy if you haven't got an orbital sander or a belt sander or anything like that. You can stick it on the angle grinder and we'll just sand up this bit of wood. Now with these you've got to be super careful, because hopefully you can see that I put a little bit more pressure on in the centre, and you can see how it's really dug in really quickly there. This is just a bit of softwood pine, and I think that's a 60 or a 40 grit disc. The material removal rate is really, really fast, so you need to be really careful with those. So hopefully you can see that's left a beautiful surface finish, considering I've just hit it with an angle grinder. These two are diamond cutting wheels. Now this one is particularly good for cutting things like tiles and ceramic. You might recognise one of these from a portable tile cutter. They're basically the same thing. It's very, very fine diamond coated disc, great for cutting tiles and ceramics and things like that. And then this is similar sort of thing. This is a dry cut diamond disc for cutting concrete. Same principle, but it's got some little relief cuts in it. And it's a slightly coarser diamond. So we can cut ceramics and stone. What a lot of people don't realise is you can also grind them. Now this is a diamond grinding wheel. It's great for doing things like cast concrete, or if you just need to knock some sharp edges down. Say you've cast a new concrete worktop or something, or a step or whatever. You've got some rough surfaces, just run this across the surface. It really helps to smooth out any imperfections. Okay, I've got the back of an old concrete paving slab here. It's got a load of mortar and concrete stuck on the back. It's a bit stubborn, won't come off. So let's give it a go with the diamond grinding wheel and see if that'll shift it. You might be thinking this is another diamond cutting wheel, similar to the ones we've just seen. And it is very similar, but this is a lot thicker. And what this is a raking wheel. So this is for raking out old mortar courses in brickwork. If you need to repoint, it's a bit thicker. You can get it in and dig around inside and pull out all the old mortar, and that just allows you to repoint. Now it doesn't get used very often, but you can see how quickly that dealt with that. There we go, that's 10 what I think are pretty awesome accessories for an angle grinder that make it the most versatile tool in the workshop, in my opinion. If you know any other ways to use it, or any other little accessories, different discs or bits that you can put on it to make it even more versatile, I would absolutely love to know about them. Because I use this thing almost daily and it's absolutely fantastic. So if I can find other ways to use it as well, that would be brilliant. So if you do, drop us a comment, give us a like, share the video if you've got some friends that you think would benefit from this. Hopefully, maybe you learned something, maybe you saw a way to use a grinder that you didn't know about, and well, maybe that's changed your life, who knows. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.